Heavy trucks, paramedic vehicles, all waiting to go inside at some point to do what they do. Behind me, down the West Side Highway to the end of Lower Manhattan, it gets darker the closer you get to where the towers once stood. From overhead, you can see the plumes of smoke that still pop up. There's still small fires that firefighters are trying to deal with. About 5 blocks from where we stand right now is a command post. There are several hundred police officers, firefighters, paramedics, doctors, construction workers, all waiting for word when they think the situation is secure enough, when they can move in and begin to remove the debris, begin to look for those people who have managed to call on their cell phones, have managed to call on two-way radios saying, help us, we're alive, we're okay. At some point, they hope to move in with the heavy equipment and get to the countless numbers of body survey. The mayor has said it is likely that thousands have died here. Dan, as you've said, the first we learned of this happened at 8:48 this morning. By about 9:15, I was in position about 3 blocks away from the World Trade Center when one of the towers collapsed. For a moment, we, like the other people, just sort of stood there, not really realizing, comprehending what was happening. You could see the smoke and the balls of fire begin to roll in our direction. And for a moment, everyone just stood there, not believing that any of this had happened, or believing it possible that we could soon be in danger by the smoke and the debris that rolled our way. I was standing with a CBS News correspondent, Mika Brzezinski, at that moment. Then the officials started screaming for us to run. Mika took off her high heels, we clasped hands, we ran as hard as we could. We went to PS 89, an elementary school here along the West Side Highway. When we walked inside that school building, you could see teachers and administrators crying, young children who were visibly frightened. They gathered up those children, regained their composure, and then led them next door to another school. Hours later, that school was evacuated. There was report that there might be a bomb in that building. Panic broke out again. Dan, when we talked this morning, I remember telling you about a moment, I think it was 9:39 this morning. For many of us standing on the street, that was the moment when this went from shock to horror. I remember I was standing next to, at that point, to a New York City police detective, barking out orders, soldier straight, talking with a stirred and clear voice. Just then he glanced up and saw, at first we thought it was just debris falling from the building. And then we both realized, I think at about the same moment, that it looked to be a couple, a man and a woman holding hands, falling from the building. At that moment, 9:39, for many of us, we realized that this wasn't just an accident, this wasn't just a building, but lives were being lost. Dan.
Byron Pitts, live in Lower Manhattan, as we now are well past the midnight hour here on the East Coast. This is the worst attack on American soil since the Japanese sneak attack bombing of Pearl Harbor December 7th, 1941. A total of 2,403 persons were killed in that attack. Overwhelmingly, the casualties were military casualties. And that's the worst attack on American soil, being in Hawaii, December 7th, 1941. In the continental United States, you'd have to go back probably to the Civil War in the 19th century to find an attack in this country of this sort. And, of course, that was during a civil war. Will there be more than 2,403 people dead when all is counted? No one can know. President Bush has said that thousands are dead. New York City Mayor Rudolph Giuliani has indicated that a tremendous number, as he put it, are dead. But it may be quite a while before we have any exact numbers. And yes, I know you may have heard elsewhere, may have heard some reference to quote, 800 dead at the Defense Department, the Pentagon in Washington. That is not now, and nor has it ever been confirmed. It was carried in one wire service report and by some news outlets. What we know, and all we know at the Pentagon, is that a firefighter who was inside, a fire official who was inside for some hours, said that he was convinced that everybody who was alive inside had gotten out, and that he thought there could be, quote, 100 to 800 bodies inside. But nobody knows. To repeat for emphasis, and it's important to repeat it for emphasis, how many were killed at the Defense Department, and nobody knows or can know for a long while yet how many were killed at the World Trade Center. Yes, 300 New York City firefighters are missing, or were as of about an hour and a half or 2 hours ago. Many of those are widely believed to be dead, but how many of the 300 missing firemen are dead, nobody can know, not for some long while. Some 30-some-odd New York City policemen were missing as of last official count out of City Hall. Now, chaos reigned throughout New York City during the morning hours of Tuesday morning. As Troy Roberts reports now, no one who lives or works in this city was untouched by it.
It started with a plane crash.
It's like, oh my God, it did. A plane crashed into the World Trade Center.
Literally out of the blue.
It's clear as day, AA on the wing, just going, I'm like, what the heck is that? Is it filming a movie here or something? Then all of a sudden, bam.
Brothers Jeff and Scott Such were there, ground zero, with their video camera.
You're good right here in the corner. Stay in the corner.
So after the first strike, you're not thinking terrorist attack, are you?
You're thinking that this is a really huge accident, that I should be seeing this, so we just decided to go even closer.
The brothers continued shooting this videotape. As people trapped in the building began falling from the windows.
It almost looked as if someone had just, like, stepped backwards and had fallen through a window.
What's this other jet doing?
But the terrorists weren't done. 20 minutes later, another plane, another tower, another devastating attack.
Boom, just a loud explosion, and then you just look up to the sky, because that's where it came from. The noise came from above. You look up, and it's just like confetti in the sky.
And that was just the beginning. On the ground, chaos as one of the famed Twin Towers crumbles. Firefighters and rescue workers attack the other tower, still standing, still burning. Who knows how many trapped inside.
So stock onto your trucks, make sure you got flashlights. If you don't have any lights, then let me know.
Oh, no! Then that tower collapses too.
And we had some time to get some of the people out, but then there was those secondary explosions and then the subsequent collapses. So I don't know how many people were in there. I know there was a lot of firefighters, a lot of public safety personnel were in there.
You call her and you tell her, let her hear your voice. She's going to need to hear your voice. Just like you need to hear my voice, I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank you. Bye. See you later. I love you.
All day long, more fallout.
Because it might be a bomb in the school, maybe.
A reported bomb threat. A dangerous gas leak.
This is Ed Sullivan. I want that building evacuated. All civilians, please head north of Moore Street.
Then, a nearby building collapses from the day's damage.
You are watching Building 7 at the World Trade Center collapse.
Amid the destruction and devastation, though, one remarkable thing did happen. Today's tragedy brought out the best in a city not always known for its kindness and humanity. 3 hours after the attack, area residents have put out an open call for volunteers to search the rubble for any signs of possible survivors.
They're here to volunteer. They're a laborer, they're a plumber, they're an electrician, whatever they are, to stay with you guys. If they're medical, they go across the street.
We're CPR and first aid trained.
You're prepared to go into that rubble?
Yeah, unfortunately we are. You know, whatever we can do to help out. I know there's not enough people in the city of New York to do it. I mean, it's a mess over there.
These volunteers say there is just one thing they want, something uniquely New York. Street justice. Tough and immediate.
I hope they're sending planes over there right now. Take care of business.
A full accounting of the casualties. That was Troy Roberts' report, by the way. A full accounting of the casualties from today's attack on America will, as we keep emphasizing, take many days, perhaps weeks to compile, if indeed we ever know the exact number of people killed and wounded. For now, area hospitals and medical emergency crews are hard-pressed to treat the injured who have already been found. CBS News medical correspondent Elizabeth Caledon joins us live now with that part of the story from New York University Hospital. Elizabeth?
Well, Dan, the first of what will be many long days for New York's medical community is coming to an end now. And as you've mentioned over and over again, we still have no idea the numbers of injured, the numbers of dead. What we do know is that ambulances and medical vehicles, emergency vehicles, swarmed this area all day long, bringing the injured here. The types of injuries doctors were reporting seeing were mostly burns, a lot of smoke inhalation. We heard of a skull fracture. We heard of one case of a double leg amputation. And we heard of some cases of cardiac arrest, the people who were just so overcome by the shock of this situation that they went into heart failure. The hospitals today dealt with a great deal of pressure in terms of getting blood. They put up a call for blood donation. People streamed here, lined up for hours to donate blood, and the hospital, in fact, was so overwhelmed they had to turn people away and tell them to come back in the next few days. The need for blood will be continuing as this situation continues. Now, what's happening now is the hospitals are starting to put up lists of the people who have been admitted so that family members can come and look over those lists to see if their family member is here. It is just the beginning of what will be a long and desperate search for survivors. Dan?
Elizabeth Caledon at New York University Hospital on the lower part of Manhattan. St. Vincent's Hospital, one of the most famous hospitals in the world with a specialty in emergency care, was right on the edge of the worst of the disaster area, has been absolutely saturated and inundated all day long. And it wasn't just a case of ER, emergency rooms. Whole hospitals were made into emergency rooms, if you will. The exact number of dead, not known, cannot be known for a long while. 100 to 800, yes, that's a big spread, but nobody knows. 100 to 800 bodies believed to be in the Pentagon just outside Washington. Mayor Giuliani says that a tremendous, that's his word, tremendous number will wind up being dead in New York. And President Bush said earlier tonight that, quote, thousands had been killed in these attacks today. Now, even American cities that were not specifically targeted by the terrorists, so far as we know, felt the aftershocks of the attacks. Airports closed and state after state went alert. Bill Whitaker has that part of the story from Los Angeles. Bill?
Dan, the terror struck New York, but the horror struck deep here in California. The Crystal Cathedral in Orange County opened its doors to all faiths to come together for comfort and support. While some turned to prayer, others turned to force. FBI agents with fingers at the ready ringed the main federal building in Los Angeles. For some, the shock is turning to anger. Muslim groups in Los Angeles say they're receiving death threats and pleaded with their countrymen not to blame all for what a few may have done.
The pain of this country is, in fact, our pain.
The Los Angeles city attorney called for unity and calm.
As residents of the most diverse city in the world, we must also be careful not to allow these terrorists to turn us against each other and target or blame certain ethnic groups.
But with all the hijacked planes originally headed for California, the state is feeling vulnerable. Fearing the nation's second-largest city might also be a target, workers fled downtown high-rises, leaving the heart of Los Angeles a ghost town. City government, law enforcement, indeed the entire city was on high alert.
We believe that whatever could have happened in New York could very likely happen here.
The entire West was on alert. The Transamerica Pyramid in San Francisco, even Seattle's Space Needle closed down, leaving tourists stunned.
To Pearl Harbor magnified 10 times.
There's heightened alert on the Golden Gate and Bay Bridges, San Francisco's main links. Even Disneyland, the self-proclaimed happiest place on earth, joined other California amusement parks and closed down in fear.
Obviously, what they want is to shut down the country, and that's exactly what they've done.
I mean, it's scary to think that something like this could happen in the United States. I mean, you feel safe here, and now you don't feel as safe.
The West's water and energy suppliers are taking no chances either. At Hoover Dam, boats and bomb-sniffing dogs are on patrol. Armed guards stand outside the San Onofre nuclear plant near San Diego. The Navy threw up barricades at its 32nd Street station, also in San Diego. Up the road, Marine Camp Pendleton went on Threat Condition D, the highest level of alert, meaning an attack is expected or imminent.
Right now, they are checking every car that's on base.
People wanting, even needing to do something lined up in San Diego and in Los Angeles to give blood. But with special edition headlines screaming terror, many other people are feeling helpless.
We are held hostage until we find out exactly who did it, and we don't know. And what measures should we take to do that and to prevent it? I don't think we're going to be safe for a while.
Even despite the best efforts of the best of us. Jim Laval is the brother-in-law of John Oganowski, pilot of American Flight 11, the first plane to slam into the World Trade Center. He says he's sure his brother-in-law pilot resisted any hijackers with all his strength.
I cannot even begin to fathom John Oganowski doing that. I mean, you know, he would walk through a fire with a suit made of gasoline for his passengers before he would do something like that.
Now, there were church services across the West tonight, Americans coming together to pray for the victims and to pray for their country. Dan?
Bill Whitaker in Los Angeles. Some 500 doctors and other medical personnel have just showed up at New York's St. Vincent Hospital. Among the heroes of this story, the emergency workers and the medical professionals, including physicians, trying so hard to save lives. Joining us now at St. Vincent's Hospital in downtown Manhattan is Dr. Richard Westphal. Doctor, thank you for taking time to talk to us.
My
pleasure.
Please
tell us what the situation is at the hospital at this hour.
Well, right now we've had all day about 350 patients admitted, brought into the hospital to the emergency department. We've triaged them to different areas of the emergency department. And of those, about 50 had major injuries, and we've had about 4 deaths. And about 45 EMTs, paramedics, firefighters, and police have been amongst them. Right now they're bringing in probably about 3 or 4 patients an hour. It's dramatically decreased in volume, but they are both rescuers. We had just had 2 police officers brought in who were injured and smoke inhalation. And one of the patients that I'm only across the street, but I'm suspecting might have been taken out from the debris that's there. I can only conjecture that, Mr. Rather.
And Doctor, is St. Vincent's Hospital capable of putting to work these additional helpers, medical professionals, including physicians who showed up just in the last hour or so?
You know what happened, Mr. Rather? In the morning, early afternoon, we needed that additional help. But honestly, from about late evening and certainly all through now, our additional staff of residents and interns and volunteer doctors that have come from the community, we really have enough physicians, nurses right now. We're staffed through till tomorrow. So I think that wave that we needed of volunteer physicians and nurses is probably not a need right now.
Not far from where you are, Dr. Westphal, men with pickaxes and shovels and, yes, with great cranes and bulldozers are trying their best to go through the debris. What do you expect to be happening at your hospital tomorrow? That is, well, it's in the early hours of this day, but as the wee hours of the morning turn into daylight, what do you expect the hospital to have to do?
Yeah, well, Mr. Rather, we expect that we have got double and triple staffing available, so we really want to see the critically ill, critically traumatized victims come out and have all of our trauma center staff be able to resuscitate and save some of those victims. I think hearing the mayor on TV several times today, I would just echo his thoughts that we are all very hopeful that we can have additional survivors. I think we're realistic, but at the same point, we're very expectant that we're going to have survivors, and we're ready and prepared to do that.
Doctor, will you repeat for me the figures as you know them? How many dead has the hospital counted thus far?
We've had 4 patients that died here. 2 came in cardiac arrest from the injuries. 1 was a firefighter who was injured and died in the operating room, and another patient who came in, and we're not sure whether it was cardiac or trauma related, but we had 4 victims who died at our hospital.
And how many people were brought in what you would call critical condition?
I'd say probably I'd say critical and major traumas, over 50 victims. And of those, probably out of the 350 total victims, about 35 to 40 were rescue staff. In other words, EMTs, paramedics, firefighters, and police officers. Over 50 of our 350 patients came from that area.
Dr. Richard Westfall, we admire and appreciate what you and others at St. Vincent and the other hospitals have done and are doing. Thank you very much for taking time to talk with us.
Thank you, Mr. Rather. Thank you very much.
Good luck. As the scope of this tragedy widened, the Red Cross issued repeated pleas for volunteers to donate blood. Aaron Moriarty reports on how New York City rolled up its sleeves.
I turned on the TV, and it was a horror show. It's like World War III.
I keep on telling people that I think I'm going to wake up and it's going to be a bad dream. It's going to be a bad dream. And, you know, when you think about all the things that have gone on in our lives, this could be the worst.
First thing came to my mind is this is war. You know, it's obviously an act of aggression. It's obviously very well organized.
I see a plane falling from the sky. Right? Yeah! All of a sudden you hear an explosion, and then you can see the building starting to collapse, and then everybody runs up the street.
The still billowing smoke is a reminder of just how profoundly changed this city is today. Schools, offices, and stores are all closed. There's no traffic or noise anywhere, not even here on Fifth Avenue. But if the city seems very different today, so do the people who live here.
The people who are here for the blood drive are to stay in their seats in the lobby.
New Yorkers didn't mind getting in long lines today or giving something away, their blood.
I work right down the block, and this is the best thing that we could do to help people out. You know, with tragedy, my brother's a fireman. He's down there. So at this point, I think Americans can just get together and, you know, with this such a tragic situation, what else can you do but maybe hopefully save somebody's life by giving blood?
Why are you here? Dale Zeidman came when she realized she couldn't do anything else to help a friend.
A friend of mine worked in the World Trade Center, and that's why I'm here, because it's personal.
Elizabeth Whelan and her daughter Christine feared they lost a husband and a father.
My husband works in the World Trade Center, and into World Trade Center, and this morning, because he was going to vote, he decided to jog before he went to work. So on my way to work, I saw him jogging outside my office here at 68th and Broadway. So when I got up and heard the news, I knew that he was safe. But my daughter, who lives...
I had no idea. I was watching television as the second plane went into World Trade Center. And it was 9 in the morning, so I thought my father was at work. I was frantically calling, hearing his voice on voicemail, and I had no idea whether he was alive or dead.
Still a little in shock, they are feeling very, very lucky.
We were standing there hugging each other, watching those buildings go down from our apartment building, and it was just the most terrifying thing because he could have been there, he should have been there. It was just a minor miracle he wasn't.
No one knows exactly how much blood will be needed. Linda Levi of the New York Blood Center.
So our inventory was actually pretty good this week.
When you say that, how many days under normal circumstances?
We typically like to have at least 5 days of every blood type available. And with that, we have a comfortable blood inventory. But an emergency that happened today, that could be gone in a day or even less.
When the second explosion occurred, everything went dark.
Despite the confusion, despite a wait that often stretched for hours,
would like to volunteer for the American Red Cross.
There were no complaining New Yorkers. The only harsh words were for those behind the terrorist acts.
They've declared war on the United States.
Because they've got a nation of 300 million people that are very, very angry at whoever wants to step up and take credit.
It may take weeks for the full impact of today's tragedy to sink in.
My husband is sitting there contemplating that he has no law practice, that for 30 years he's been going to an office that doesn't exist anymore. And I don't know how he's going to cope with it. I don't know how anyone can cope. I can't believe it.
Let's pray. Lord our God, you are always faithful and quick to show mercy. Our brothers and sisters were suddenly and violently taken from us.
Which explains one other popular place today, St. Patrick's Cathedral.
So many people came to give blood that at some centers the wait was as long as 7 hours, and yet those New Yorkers stayed. But for that reason, the New York Blood Center is now asking that only people who have type O, either positive or negative, come to centers later today. Everyone else should probably wait a day. If you live anywhere else outside New York, anywhere else in the country, there's a toll-free number that you can call if you want information about donating blood. That number is 1-888-US Blood. Dan?
Aaron Moriarty, thanks. 8:45 a.m. this morning, American Airlines Flight 11 carrying 92 people from Boston to Los Angeles crashes into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. That was 8:45 a.m. Then at 9:03, this happened. We're going to show you 4 different angles of the second plane hitting the second tower. Look at the speed of this plane.
Terrorist arrow pierces the heart of a city and a nation.
It went deep into the building. Now from another angle. See how far the airplane got into the thing. It was literally like a rocket hitting the building. Now from the other direction, another shot. Balls of fire. And the doomed and the dead began plummeting out of the buildings. Yet another shot of how that second building was hit by the aircraft. Now, if you're saying to yourself, what made those buildings collapse? Those who constructed the building, those who designed the building said today that the force of an airplane, even a big commercial jet plane, hitting the building would not have caused the building to collapse. What happened, these aircraft were going so fast, they got into the building, they were loaded with volatile jet fuel. And the explosion and fire of the fuel from the aircraft setting off secondary explosion inside the building, that's what caused both of the Twin Towers to explode and be demolished. The effects of this attack here in New York are being felt far and wide across America. Cynthia Bowers has that part of the story from the Windy City of Chicago. Well, we obviously have some difficulty with that report from Cynthia Bowers, and we'll get back to it. What I can tell you is that when word spread in Chicago of what was happening in New York, some of the tallest buildings in Chicago were evacuated. Many public areas were shut down. Extra security went into effect in many places. The city went on an alert. Markets in Chicago, as those in New York, shut down very quickly. And of course, O'Hare Airport, the busiest in the nation, like every other airport, got orders immediately, shut it down on domestic flights. Nothing is supposed to move as soon as you can shut it down. The Federal Aviation Agency shut down air travel in the United States, period, and it will be shut down at least through noon today. It's already Wednesday here in the East. At least through noon Wednesday, the FAA says nothing moves in the air other than military and high government aircraft until at least noon this day. Now, from air travel to communications to big league sports, today's attack on America had much of the country tied up in knots, as Jim Axelrod now reports.
The sign is at the Atlanta airport. National emergency. Airport closed. But it could have been anywhere in America today.
I'm scared. Scared and want to go home. My safety is more important than my job.
The direct hits in New York and Washington snarled traffic as far away as Anchorage, Alaska, due to security upgrades at Elmendorf Air Force Base. They caused gas lines in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where prices started at $1.55 and then began climbing. They felt it in Florida. Disney World closed in Orlando, and the Florida Marlins baseball game was canceled. Same thing at Turner Field in Atlanta and every other major league game in the country. First time that's happened since the death of Franklin Roosevelt in 1945. In Los Angeles, the Latin Music Grammy Awards that Carlos Santana was practicing for have been canceled for tonight. Madonna's show has also been called off, and television's glamour event, the Emmy Awards, also canceled for Sunday. In New Mexico, the state fair's been